ladies and gentlemen around the world. It is Friday night, 10 o'clock. You know what that means. It's time for the WADcast. The writers, actors, director, and every goofy little spot on the set in between the podcast for all yous people and for all of yous that want to learn about these people. It's episode number 35. And boy, have we got a good show for you tonight. I am Josh, joined, as always, by the guy who has had something grow 3 sizes every Christmas. His ego.
My God. I'm very humble, so fuck you.
What's up, Brandon?
Not much, brother. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, you know, surviving another week. You know, that used to be facetious, now it's actually an accomplishment.
I'm telling you. Yeah, so, no, it's actually been, I've been looking forward to this show all week. We had discussed something we saw on one of our Facebook groups that we're in for screenwriters, and it is pretty much things to not lie about in the film industry. Now, I'm trying to find the article itself. I had to pull it up and I accidentally closed the window down, so I'm looking through it right now. But there's a lot of stuff that people actually think that they can lie about in even like the modern age of film and television. Mm-hmm. I don't understand that. Like, I mean, look, it's such a small industry. People are going to, fact check everything you say.
Yeah. Like when I was doing rewrites for Avengers: Infinity War, it was definitely a learning experience.
Yeah, and then once you were done with the rewrites, you just left them in the file folder on your laptop where they're naturally going to go since no studio asked for them. But
well, we don't have to talk about that part. But I think that's a good example of what we're talking about. Not necessarily people, doing their fan fiction and claiming some sort of credit for it, but you attach yourself to a project, right? And that's one thing that can pretty easily be checked up on.
Oh yeah, it's really. I mean, the worst thing you can do is say that, oh, I'm really good friends with the guy that did this, or I pitched it to this person, or I have an agent and I can we're in talks right now. Like, I mean, there's so many things that you can do to screw yourself over because a lot of these producers or people that work in not just in production, but work in different areas of expertise, like even from the camera guy. They are so tapped into, depending on how long they've been doing it and how many big projects they've worked on. These people have been doing this for years. They have phone numbers of people that you've only read about or seen on TV. So for them to check up on your qualifications, it's so easy. And I'm not going to say that I haven't done that in the past, but when I did that, it was before things like I think that was back in the MySpace days, and it got my foot through the front door. But I'll tell you right now, I got found out real quick because what they could look up online, they could see just by talking to me, like how full of shit I was. So I walked through the door, and then I was shown right back through the door again, and good way to burn a bridge, actually. But so what exactly are we talking about here? Because I'll let you take this and just ramble because I'm still trying to find this article.
Well, I'll put out there another little example. It's one that I ran by my close and personal friend Diablo Cody as we were getting ready to do a conference call with Marty. I'm sorry. Most people know him as Martin Scorsese, but we call him Marty because we're tight like that. So we're going to do this conference call and, talking about some projects we have coming up. Nothing's been signed, no contracts. We're just, spitballing here. And, just trying to figure out what the future is going to be like for cinema. Someone in the group, I don't remember who it was, but they said, hey, old Stevie Spielberg, he has some interesting ideas, and yeah, he's been doing this for many years, but every once in a while a great idea comes from the back. from the history of cinema, and we have to examine that thought process and really push forward with innovation and originality, and that's something that is completely lacking in the entertainment industry today. So, as you heard with my casual name dropping, I have all of the credentials that I need to move forward with any project you producers listening out there might want to get behind.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm ready for your money to fund our dreams and the dreams of my friends. They'll sign off for me as long as you don't call them.
I ain't signing off on shit. I'm watching you, and I'm just going to watch the whole thing just crumble. It's like, oh yeah, do you know Josh? Josh who?
Yeah. They'll say, yeah. I know a few of Josh's. Everybody knows a Josh.
Oh my God. I'll just be like, no, I never heard of him. I'm sorry. Have I worked with him on an A-list on that A-list movie? I have not. No, I know nothing about that movie. Sorry, can't help you.
So yeah, doing any of those things that I just did when it comes to this is who I know, this is who I've worked with, and this is what I've been working on. Not a good idea unless it's true. I know that Hollywood in particular as an industry is notorious, dog eat dog, do whatever you can to get ahead. But like you were saying, Brandon, you do have to have some sort of integrity involved. Otherwise, people just get pissed off when you lie to them.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, who the hell wouldn't? I mean, it's just like it's such a disrespectful thing to do, really, to anyone. I mean, it's just like I don't see the point behind it. I don't condone it. And I know of people who have actually done it and they have not gotten caught, but I just prefer not to be that person. So, yeah. Here, one second.
Now, there was a point in time where, and we've heard a few of those stories here on the WADcast where fake it till you make it was kind of a thing for a few people. And that was really during a time when we didn't have the information of the world available at our fingertips at all times. When if you wanted to check up on somebody, phone calls had to be made, a fax had to be sent, sometimes a letter had to be written. And an immediate response was not always available, but sometimes you needed to immediately act on the person that's in front of you. And under those circumstances, a person was able to pretty, not easily, but slyly slip through the cracks of the system and get their foot in the door. Sometimes the person would make the most of that ill-gotten opportunity, and next thing you know, they have a career. Other times, they get found out eventually, and like you said, get shown the door, toot sweet. But that's not really a path anymore because we are so in touch with each other, because we can check on things so easily.
Well, I mean, it takes zero time. It takes zero time in such a small, tight knit industry to look into someone and see how thick their bullshit factor is. Like, oh, well, I mean, are they like maybe like a half inch full of shit, or are they like just chock full, overflowing out the mouth full of shit? And it cracks me because people still try that. People still try to woo other people. Like, oh, well, yeah, I worked on this film with Michael Bay. Like, oh, did you? Oh, that's cool. What film was that? Oh, this one. Oh, well, I was the casting director for that one. I don't remember seeing you. Like, oh, well, I was the executive producer that, did all the legwork and everything else and secured those finances, I don't remember seeing you there at all. I mean, there's so many things that can, what do you call it, happen that would just blow up in your face. And it just, I mean, there's so many examples of it. So, but I digress. I could actually go on with this for hours. Um, but there are things, and that's covering things like actors. Well, really any department of filmmaking. But the thing that I think we're going to talk about today is the things that screenwriters themselves should never lie about or say to like Hollywood executives. And there's one thing that I laugh at every time I hear it, and I see it all the time. Hollywood, they need something like my script. Oh no, they don't. Like, no matter how much we all want to be like the next great screenwriter, Hollywood doesn't really need our scripts. Like we're not a necessity. There's so many ideas now that Hollywood is, and Josh, as you and I were talking about earlier, like with in the Animaniacs show that got revamped. Hollywood's out of ideas. It's very clear that they're out of ideas. But with that being the case, they have old ideas that they have no problem recycling over and over and over and over. But they have like this endless stack of scripts from writers that likely have a lot more experience than you do, so they don't need your idea. They've got very seasoned writers that have been doing this for years to decades. Like,
I just want to elaborate on something real quick.
Go for
maybe
it.
even disagree to an extent. I don't think Hollywood is anywhere near out of ideas. Like you said, there are scripts and screenplays like almost literally plopping out of people's butts, all over town, right?
Yeah.
You can't spit without landing on 10 original ideas. I think Hollywood, as an industry, has run out of balls.
Oh no,
has run out of a willingness to take a chance on something that's not an already known IP and push it to the front.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you there.
The 80s were a really good time for, even some of the 90s were really good for, hey, this is a well-written script. Let's throw some money at it and see what happens.
Yeah. No, it's no, but that's it. But it's like now they don't take a chance on, and like a lot of these scripts that come out are actually they're very good movies. The ones that get turned down by Hollywood that end up getting made independently, that get put into like a film festival, and then also like, oh yeah, this is a great movie. We're going to buy this from the film festival. Well, it would have been cheaper if you had just bought the damn script. But the way Hollywood does things, it's just one of those. I don't know. They would have perverted the vision of the writer anyway. So probably like a bullet. I don't know. And sometimes when sometimes we get told no, it can lead to better things. But yeah, no, they play it so safe. But mind you, it's business. You have to be safe with it. So I understand why they play it safe, but it's just that I really feel like Hollywood. It's time for a fresh breath of air.
Yeah, it. As far as investment goes, this just in my 2 cents. It seems like the major studios are more interested in investing in like a steady 401k stuff they know they're going to get a return on, rather than like in the olden days, whenever that may be, where it was more like day trading, where they could take $10 and turn it into $1 billion.
Yeah.
Instead, they're like, I'm going to take my $10 and I'm going to turn it into $10.50.
Well, but that's exactly it. Like, I mean, as far as Hollywood playing it safe, I mean, then there's no signs of that changing anytime soon. They are going to play it safe. There's so many stories that can be told, but Hollywood's not going to do it. But there's something else that um, I've heard screenwriters like tell that they, told executives. Um, I don't want to ruin the ending. Like that's another really, really big one that like, and it's a script that you're pitching. You know, nothing is worse than a really bad ending. Look at Darkness Falls, okay? Now, I know that art is subjective. I know that movies are subjective. Well, it could be really scary to some people and not scary to other people, or is that maybe people love this movie. But Darkness Falls, I remember seeing it in theaters and thinking, "Oh my God, like this entity, this banshee kind of spirit is trying to kill this it kills this kid's mom. It just like ruthlessly kills this kid's mom." Um and then is trying to get to the kid, but the kid's hiding in a lit bathroom, so this ghost can't go into the light. Um, but what do you call it? It's one of those movies where they kill this ghost with the light from a lighthouse. Like, it's one of those movies like the best horror films have always been, for the most part, the bad guy wins or gets one over on the good guy somehow. Like The Exorcist, or and people have disagreed with me on this, but Saw, the ending of the first Saw movie was like one of my favorite horror movie endings ever, because no one really won in that movie. If they just left that like as its own ending, like without sequels, it would have been that much more powerful. Um, but yeah, it's just like it's the whole. I don't want to ruin the ending to my movie, so that's like you're taking a shit and now you don't want to wipe your ass before you pull your pants up. How many times do you think an executive would be like, "Oh, I need to buy the script because I need to know how the ending is now." They're just gonna, I don't want to ruin the ending is synonymous with I didn't finish writing it. But
Yeah. You should definitely not claim to have a finished script.
well, yeah, I mean, but there's so many. I mean, so like, what are some of the ones that you have on your list?
Uh, Things you shouldn't lie about as a screenwriter.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than let's see, credits that you don't have. How about uh, produced work? Oh, I already said that. Credits, connections. Oh, here's one that I think you'll find rather amusing. Don't lie about your worth. Don't say,
What do you mean?
I can bring in this much, when you know damn well you have no idea how much you can bring in. I do believe we've known some people that have claimed to have a monetary value attached to their name.
Okay.
It just seems like you have no idea what I'm talking about. That's funny.
I really don't. I feel like I thought you were going to get to like, I thought there was something you're working towards, and that was your. I'm sorry. Say it again.
Okay, we've know some of the same people, and well, some of the see. I'm trying not to be like it's this person.
You don't have
No,
to.
but
If it's someone that I know that we worked with very closely, I can piece it together. But like so what about them?
someone that says that they're attaching their name adds value to a project.
Oh yeah, no, that's complete bullshit. Like I'm sorry, listen, if it is if it is X amount of years later, and you are barely scraping by with what you earn working in the industry, your name does not add value. If your name was going to add value, you would be okay. Like Kevin Smith is an independent director for the most part, right? Now he has some bigger movies he's directed. He's been asked to write movies for studios, like he was asked to write a Superman movie. What was it? Superman Lives. I think he was asked to write that. He was asked to do a lot of stuff, and he's worked very closely with some A-list celebrities, with some big name producers. But having Kevin Smith attached to your project, it greenlights you within certain levels of studio, interest. Like, I mean, it's not that he's not a talented director, writer, producer. It's just that, like, there was a certain level of interest that you could gain from that.
Yeah, it's a very
So you could probably
specific path.
exactly. It's not the same as if you were to be like, oh, well, yeah, I have, let's say, Chris Pratt attached to this. Just call Chris Pratt and he just jumped right on board. Or like, it's not like with like Chris Pratt's like if Chris Pratt wants to star in it, you're going to get funding. If you have like a signed contract with Chris Pratt and like, oh yeah, I want to be in this movie, chances are you're going to sell your script. But yeah, like that whole like, my name brings some value to it. Like that's the same thing as saying that my word is as strong as oak. Bullshit.
Having that writer that says, if you attach my name to it, even though I didn't write a word, but if you attach my name to it too, and try to sell it, you'll garner more interest. It's like, I mean, you have to, especially as a writer, you have to be somebody.
Oh yeah, but I mean
Throw
that's
your
the
name
thing though.
around
It's
like
like,
that.
but you see, a lot of these writers that are out there, um, a lot of the writers that are out there that that have stable income in the film and television industry have been doing it for years, and even they still get turned down. But these are the people that executives call to write a show or to fix a problem or something like that. These are the big names that, and it's not just like the 10 or 20 of them. There's hundreds of them, and like they're all over the place. Um, but they're just a phone call away. So like like your name does not bring the value to the project that you think it does, because those names will come up first before yours ever will. Um, and it always cracks me up whenever I hear someone say that. Like I've even had someone say that to me about something up like back when I was trying to get the group together to make Bad Agent. One of the very first people I spoke with was telling me all about how his name creates all this buzz and value and yada yada yada. He was in all these things. I'm like, okay, well, let me not the fact the background extra. Um, it's it's not hard to get a job as a background extra. It's really not. Um, so you don't have connections. You have a service that you go through that supplies extras for films, and then you get paid, and then you walk out. You leave for the day. It's really not that impressive. Like, I mean, yeah, okay, if you're trying to be an actor, an aspiring actor, and you get a background gig, or even like, God forbid, like a talking role in one of these movies, go you. Getting a talking role for someone trying to break into the film industry when you're just like an extra, that is a dream come true for people. Wow. Right? Yeah,
Kind of breaking up a bit there, Brandon. And yeah, looks like we're losing Brandon on the call. Brandon, you there? Okay, it seems like he had a pretty rough connection. For those that don't know, Brandon is not in his usual office this weekend. He's, well, I don't want to give away his actual location, but he is not home. So he's out there in the field doing the show like a trooper as best he can. That's him right now. Welcome back.
Oh, okay. Well, what was the last thing you heard me say?
Honestly, I can't tell you because it was pretty much all garbled junk.
Okay, that's all I was hearing on my end too. Okay. Well, then skip everything I said. Maybe we'll hear it in the live version. But no, it's like what I was saying is just like people that are trying to make it in the industry, lying about your value, just in short, is just dumb. Don't do it. Like, ever. But, my favorite is that, here's a lie that you should never tell anybody, especially if you're talking to an executive. I've already sold a script, or 2 or 3, whatever. Or I already had a script that was and even if it's a commercial, commercials have credits. Maybe not in the commercial itself, but they're written by people. You tell them what commercial it is, that executive will look right into it and find out in a matter of maybe an hour or so exactly who wrote that commercial, who directed that commercial, what company produced and put that commercial together. Because a lot of those commercials, they're not just little nobody companies. A lot of the companies that come up with these commercials are actually big, they're actually studio productions.
Yeah.
But commercials are nothing more than short films that sell shit. That's all they are. But it's just don't lie, because say that you do get your foot in the door with a director. Oh, well, I've sold this. Okay, well, I mean, I'm going to call these people and I'll verify this. I mean, if that's true, then you must be really good. But you have to understand that you're an investment, and they want to make sure that they're making a good investment. But there's actually in lines with that, there's something you never want to say to an executive, and this is from being an honest thing. When you're writing a query letter, to get to get an agent or to a producer, if you write "This is my first script," they won't read any further than that. If you get a chance encounter with somebody, it's it's the kiss of death. Oh yeah, it's my first script I've ever written. Well, that's like me going to a mechanic and be like, oh yeah, well, it needs a complete overhaul of this, that, the other thing. It's like, oh well, I just fixed my very first car in my life the other day, so I can't wait to start on yours. You're going to get in your car and be like, I'll keep in touch with you, and just walk and drive away from them. Because in meetings, a lot of things that the very first thing that they ask, after talking about your script is, what else do you have? If you say nothing, you pretty much burned a bridge. Basically, the lesson from that is, don't come to the game if you're not ready to play. So, what else you got?
No, what else do I have?
Yep. Or is there anything you wanted to elaborate on that, or?
Yeah. What was you were making a point on what just a minute ago? What was it?
About the first scripts, or saying that you have multiple scripts, or?
it's not me, condoning lying, because if there's anything I can't stand, if someone's lying to me, I would hope it's just human nature that being lied to is not something that would make anybody happy. But when it comes
really
to
pisses me off.
situations, like you said, sometimes being brutally honest is not the way to go either. You don't want to say, I've never written anything before. But you also don't want to say that I have tons and tons of experience when you don't.
What I don't get about that is that, okay, here's the thing. If you don't have multiple feature-length scripts written, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Be honest. Oh, well, this is my first feature script I've written. Well, what else do you have? Well, I'd also written a television pilot. I've also written a bunch of short scripts. Really good ideas. I never got around to filming, but I have a lot of things written. Don't say this is my first script and it's the only one I've ever written.
Or at the very least, right? You say this is my first, completed whatever, and at the very least, have at least 2 or 3 good ideas to come back with. Because, like you said, you're always going to be asked, so what else do you have? Even
but not just good ideas, completed good ideas.
What's that?
Not even just good ideas, completed good ideas, beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, even if you don't have, 100 pages ready to go right there for your next project, just knowing that the project is in development, it has been worked out, and the only thing missing is the 100 pages, right?
What's that?
I'm just saying.
So the only thing missing is 100 pages of the script?
Yeah. Where everything's ready to go. Idea. It is ready to be, knocked out. Not as the first thing, but as, say, the what else you got. It's like, well, I'm working on this. It's fleshed out. It's ready to go. Just got to get the words down. It's definitely coming up quick.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to walk away from a meeting empty-handed, for one, and you don't want to walk away with only one idea being brought out.
Oh yeah. Well, I think I told you about. Well, yeah, this is before you and I actually got acquainted really well. But I think I might mention this before. My first script was a script called The Groomsman, and it's a very, very raunchy, messed up comedy. Mm-hmm. But I got my foot in the door with somebody to go pitch, and it was I forget his name. He was one of the producers from Sling Blade. He was a producer on Sling Blade. He was a producer on Strangeland. And here I am, 24, about 24-year-old, flying from Florida up to New York City to go pitch my raunchy comedy screenplay to a guy that writes or that produces psychological, serious shit, And he was like, "Oh, well, what else do you have that you can pitch me?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing. This is the only script I have." He was like, "Have you ever seen Strangeland?" "Oh my God, I love that movie." "Okay." "Sling Blade?" "I love that movie too." He says, "Okay. Do you remember any comedy in those movies at all that was just there for gags instead of to further the story?" I'm like, "Oh, no." He says, No, you do not. It was nice to meet you." And he was nice. He wished me all the best. And then pretty much I had to fly back to Florida from New York. Fun times. But it's like it was the only script I had. It was the first feature-length script I'd ever written. And it doesn't matter how, and it's won multiple awards in contests, but that doesn't matter because even then, I'd never even put it into a contest before I went to go pitch it. I just like I finished it, I copywritten it. I registered with the Writers Guild of America, which is fucking useless since I'm not a WGA, and I flew up to New York to go pitch the script to someone that I'd never met, and just no research, no nothing. Oh, it's my only script. Leave. Oh man.
Mm-mm-mm.
Good times. Good times.
What else do you have when it comes to things you shouldn't lie about as a screenwriter?
The type of story it is. If you're pitching it to somebody and like you find out like last minute, like, oh well, they expect this kind of movie. Don't lie. Like, well, if anything, let me rephrase that. Try not to compare it to 20 other movies. Oh, it's kind of like Jaws meets Sharknado meets Twister meets this, and it's kind of like got a spin of this in it too. And I would also try to refrain from lying about music. Oh, well, yeah, I have a hookup with this kind of music with this band that, like, like I want to use it. It's going to be based on their soundtrack, and I got their permission to use their songs. I mean, royalties cost a lot of money. Royalty protected music costs a lot of money to use. Chances are you did not get the permission to use that song by the band whatsoever. But it's like my thing is I focus more on my collection of facts of things that you should not say to executives in general. The lying part, I just don't lie. Do not lie. Like don't go on to I would definitely not be one of those people that go onto IMDb and then just give yourself credits for random like background person in movies and all that stuff because they can still double check that shit. But yeah. What
Imagine
do you got?
lying about that, and they're like, "Some of this is SAG, and some of it's not." How'd you get around that?
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, you're like,
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. I played man number 2 in this movie. Like, oh, you did? Oh yeah, I get that. Or the man or pedestrian or one of those titles that you think doesn't have any speaking roles. If you have a speaking role in the film, it's because either the director or the producer felt that it would work better for that to happen. They're going to remember. Like a lot of times where extras would not normally have lines, but they're given a line to say last minute. It's like, hey, can you actually come in and do this? I want to see how this works out. Okay, great. We'll keep that in the movie. That's now man number 2. You come in and you're like, oh, I played man number 2. It's like, oh, well, let me check with this director real quick. It's like, no. This one guy, because now he's he was in another one of my films because he did it so well. That's not him. But no, seriously. But what else do you got?
yeah. Well, when it comes to lying, I'm full of it. But in particular, this topic, you ran through my notes before I could, for the most part.
Oh.
Turns out, things you shouldn't lie about's a small list, and it's pretty all-encompassing. Don't do it.
Yeah,
you look stupid.
Ever. It's like telling someone that it's like telling someone that you knew how to, just say with healthcare. Like, oh well, yeah, I can put on all my PPE and everything else. I have a lot of experience in infection control and everything else. Well, how do you don and doff PPE? Oh, what's doff? De-gown, donning off. Donning, doffing. Like whatever. Just don't lie. It's obvious when you're lying because people will see right through it. It's on top of that, you have to build on that lie to keep that lie solid. And before you know it, you forgot what the hell you were even lying about to begin with. So just don't do it. But
How
there's
about this
one
one?
thing I
How about
was,
this one? Don't lie about being represented.
yeah, and that's a damn good one because I mean, just because an agent asks for your script does not mean that they are now your agent.
You look dumb if you lie about these things because you're going to
And
get
yet,
caught.
I was going to say, and yet people think that they can get away with it. But
And I know we're past McCarthy era, types of blacklisting, but yeah, there's still probably some sort of list out there that can be referenced where people go, yeah, we definitely don't want to be in that business with that person.
yeah. Well, see, here's two things that you never want to say, and this is my favorite because I roll my eyes all the time whenever someone comes up and says this to me. It's like, oh yeah, I have this great script. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's a Western or it's a fantasy. I'm like, ugh. So what? Like Westerns are absolute poison to so many because I mean they're despite what they look like, they are very good, like the proper Western, like the Western towns kind of deal, like those old, like everything's made out of wood setting, right? Uh, they cost so much money to shoot, like at least authentically. Um, like audiences don't really show to watch them in theaters unless like there's really big name directors attached to it. Like Tarantino, Quentin, like oh god, the Coen brothers. Um, oh god, Robert Rodriguez. But the westerns, no. Try to if you're gonna do a western, make it fresh. Um, or like like even if it's like a western, it's like to lie and say it's not a western when it so genuinely is at heart a western. Or like, oh, it's not a fantasy. It's based on a true story. Oh well, I didn't know there were wizards waving magic wands in this true story. I mean, okay. But fantasy scripts are also poison because like it doesn't matter how much the Lord of the Rings trilogy made. The truth is you're not Peter Jackson. I mean, it's very simple. You're not Peter Jackson. You're not the chick that wrote Harry Potter. I forget her name. I really don't care about her at all. But
J.K. Rowling.
yeah, her, whatever. But the exception would be like unique takes on like pretty much like the public domain fantasies, like what Disney does with Snow White, Peter Pan, Pinocchio, all that stuff. Those are like the exceptions to fantasy movies because there's so much money in those movies. Um, but yeah, or like and don't, or like have someone be like, oh well, yeah, it's kind of like King Arthur in space. Okay, so you mean it's like Star Wars, like
But even then, talking about Disney and them taking stories, fables from the public domain or whatever, they, for Snow White in particular, the selling point was much less we're telling Snow White because anybody can tell Snow White. They still had a selling point though. They still had a unique take on it by doing it in a revolutionary animated style. And I mean anybody could have made a feature-length Snow White animated film back then. But because Disney took it and made it a huge leap in the process, suddenly it is a major phenomenon. And it basically, I don't want to say reinvigorates Disney, but it certainly makes them the powerhouse that they are now. And it's what they still do today. We see it all the time, especially in storytelling today. Everybody's doing some sort of take on a superhero. But Disney has Marvel, and what does Marvel do? They up the game, and pretty much every time they step onto the field. That's something Warner has not been able to do with their properties, because darker is not different. It's not stepping up. We had Hancock. Interesting Will Smith movie, right? But
Yeah.
it failed to make an impact. We have all of these other takes on superheroes that should have done something, right? If superhero movies are making a ton of money, these other movies should be cashing in on this popularity as well. At least that's kind of the line of thinking. But because somebody's doing it with, one, recognized characters, and two, doing it incredibly well, it changes the game. And honestly, I don't know what any of this has to do with about lying, but it does mean that if you are going to, oh yeah, I remember now. If you are going to be making that fantasy story, if you're writing that fantasy story, you should know immediately that just for the very simple fact that you chose that genre, it's going to come with a price tag. Because fantasy means special effects. It means all sorts of things that will cost a ton of money. And quite frankly, you're probably not worth it. I hate to say it like that, but it doesn't matter if it's like a great story. It's going to be very difficult to find somebody to put that much money behind your idea. Why? Because it's a great upfront investment for something that you don't know if you're going to get. Disney's not perfect. They made John Carter, right?
Yeah.
They did their thing, public domain character. Same guy that wrote Tarzan wrote John Carter, the novels, back in the day. And what happened? They put the money behind it. They were like, "Yeah, we can do this. It's a cherished story. People like it. It should be great." Was not the case. Considered a major disaster, and that's with people that are have been around for years, and that's with people that know what they're doing. So don't set yourself up for failure. If you have a fantasy script, yeah, keep that in your back pocket. I'm not saying don't write what you want, because honestly, write what you want. That's the key. But also keep in mind, if this is what you are trying to do, at some point you will probably have to try and sell what you're doing. And it's when it comes to people asking questions on this particular Facebook group, and they ask, should I write this? Should I write this? Should I write this? And everyone will give their 2 cents. Don't write that. Or, yeah, write that. It for me, my answer will always be, write what you want. But realize that if you want to make money, you got to write what will sell. And luckily, if you got a little bit of extra time on your hands, you can do both. Keep one in your back pocket. Maybe it is something that can come around to it, in a little while. Peter Jackson wasn't born, with a green light, right? He had to earn it. And
yeah, he started off as a horror director.
And eventually,
very gory,
he became
horror director.
The Lord of the Rings guy.
Yep.
He was able to get his fantasy project, pun intended, off the ground because he had banked enough credibility, he was able to do what he had to do to make a name for himself, and then followed that up with doing what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Some people get lucky. I was watching the holiday films that made us. I don't know if you've checked that out yet.
I have not. No, not as of yet.
Okay, you've seen the series though, the films that made us, or the movies that made us.
Yeah,
and the toys that made us. Great stuff. Great little docuseries from Netflix. But in this, they were talking to the screenwriter for Elf.
Okay.
And, he hadn't done anything before. So we met somebody that hadn't produced anything before. And it just so happened that, the guy that was interested in producing it played basketball with another guy who was friends with someone else who was friends with Will Ferrell or something like that. And it got into the right hands, so it got made.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's usually how it works. If you're a beginner, it's, and a large part of the industry is all about who you know.
Which is why you shouldn't lie about who you know.
Exactly.
Because chances are the person you're talking to, what was that game? The 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Really? So, yeah, I don't know.
Just the idea that Kevin Bacon has done so much work in Hollywood that everybody in the world is connected to him 7 degrees or less, and you find out what your Kevin Bacon rating is.
I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, it was a fun game to play.
I did it myself. I did it myself. I go down the chain of actors and see, if I can connect how many actors this one actor is connected to through other actors.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that people were doing it with Kevin Bacon. I know Kevin Bacon's been in a lot of stuff, but
Yeah, there's even a program where you type in an actor's name and it'll show you the chain that connects them to any actor in the world.
Yeah.
Prolific career, that guy.
Yeah, I never played. I'm gonna have to do that now, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But I digress. And I don't want to sound like I'm being discouraging here, like your script is crap and you should never think about making it. No, not by any means. But you have to be realistic, and you know what? I'm going to make this the final thing that you should never lie about when it comes to being a screenwriter. You should never lie to yourself. You should never lie to yourself and say, I have this, and I am the greatest, or I am the worst, because guess what? You're neither.
You should always know when you can be honest with yourself and say you're nothing but trash.
You are not trash. Whoever's listening, you are not. You could be nothing. A terrible, terrible writer, but you are not trash. Maybe your calling is not writing, but you're definitely not trash. And by the way, I've seen certain projects that have made it to screens big and small, and I would say that no matter who you are, you will definitely never be the worst person to ever write a script. I don't know who that honor would go to, and I certainly wouldn't want to point them out here as in such a public forum. But yeah, we've seen really real garbage not only show up in theaters, but also make a little bit of money to justify the existence of such subpar writing. And then some of these subpar writers continue to make money doing this, while much, much more talented individuals don't get a dime for their excellent work. Why? Don't know. Whether it's who you know or an inability to sell yourself.
Yeah.
It sometimes a terrible story gets sold just because the person that wrote it knows how to make themselves look good. And I don't mean by lying, but I mean like doing something that every one of us should do. Every one of us in every aspect of life. Accentuate your own positives while downplaying any weaknesses. You want your bright spots to be bright. You want your weak areas to be covered up. You don't want to try to sell your story and say, yeah, I know the dialogue's a little weak. No, that's nuts. Yeah, it's being honest, but again, there's a difference between being honest and not lying.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, but that's the line though. That's the whole line right there. Be honest, but you put yourself in a position where you are being honest in positive ways because you have no choice but to be. Don't lie. Like, I think we pretty much blew through this whole episode already, man. Jesus. I thought we'd have at least like 2 hours worth of stuff here. But no, but it's like when you're going to go in and talk to these executives, go in with honesty, but go in with enough stuff to back that honesty up.
And be self-aware.
Don't go in, don't go there and be like, oh, well, yeah, like, well, I only have X, Y, and Z on my name, so I'm going to lie about something they'll never know. It's like, okay, well, now you're going to be kicked out for being a liar. Get kicked out for being honest, get kicked out for being a liar. You got to do the healthy in between, which is don't lie and be honest, but have stuff that you can be honest about, meaning give yourself more projects, more practice, more experience, and then go do it.
It's like when you're being interviewed for a job, right? And that inevitable question comes up. What are your weaknesses? You're not going to say, well, I'm addicted to meth.
Why not? You're being honest.
No, that should not be the weakness that you point out.
Now, if you're lying about that, it just means you were throwing that job interview from the get-go because you wanted to troll somebody, in which case you have my full support.
I've always wanted to do a series where people just go on job interviews, see if they can get a job acting really, really crazy.
I've done that so many times out of boredom. Like I've gone to job interviews that for places I've never intended to work, just because it was fun.
That would be a great show. Verbal trademark, copyright. That's how that works, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh my lord. But what else you got, Josh?
Nothing. That's it. I got absolutely nothing else to add to the flavor of this episode.
We were so ill prepared for this episode.
What are you talking about? You said I have notes to reference. And as far as you know, I do.
Okay, well then, I was very ill prepared for this episode then. But in my defense, it's also coming up on Christmas, and I've been just swamped the last couple days now. So, but either way, I say we wrap this. Just call it a night.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you wrap, I leave. Like, but everybody, do not worry. I will say this: this is our last live show of the year. Now we will be having a show next week, but it will be a pre-recorded show that we do.
We won't be having a show next week.
I thought we were going to do a pre-recorded one.
We are going dark next week. We are.
Okay.
We're going to be spending Christmas with our loved ones.
Oh, okay.
But we will record an episode for New Year's Day that will cover our favorite things from 2020.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So seriously, okay. So to all of our listeners for next week, fuck you. No, and a Merry Christmas.
And we love you.
But yeah. So next week we will not have a show. I would apologize to you guys, but you already got an apology from us for last week when we were a day late for the show for my sister's graduation. So I'm not apologizing again. You'll make do. But we will be back the week after, as Josh said, with a pre-recorded show, discussing our favorite things from the year. And then we'll be back on track for the new year. So that's all I got, though. But should I get into telling them where they can follow me?
Sure.
Okay.
Give them a nice address, maybe throw out your social security number, and open up your tracking on your phone.
Yeah, okay. Let me just go ahead and give my my ex-girlfriend's address and phone number real quick. Now, you can find me on Instagram under bjacksman82, but you can follow us on the WADcast on Instagram. It's Instagram.com/the WADcast. You'll know us because we have that black picture with a white banner that says WADcast in it. You can also go to our Facebook page, also the WADcast. You gotta type in that "the" there, otherwise you get some weird other stuff. But the WADcast, once again, you'll see the black profile picture with the white banner that says WADcast in it. And that's where you can follow us on there. What about you, Josh?
Well, as always, you can find me on Twitter at SkidComic. That's my personal Twitter account. So if you want to give it a follow, feel free. Or you can go to Semicore Studios. That's where I do stuff, I guess, for Semicore Studios. And if you really, really want to follow this show, you can go to WADcast Pod and follow them on Twitter, which, by the way, it's me. It's been me all along, Austin. Sorry. So follow those Twitter accounts. You can go to Facebook, Semicore Studios, WADcast, and we are here each and every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, except for next week, which we're going to be going dark, and the week after it's going to be pre-recorded. But if you feel like partaking or even contributing to this show, you can use the Facebook page, especially the WADcast Facebook page, especially this episode, the comments section. Leave your favorite things of 2020, and we will go through it and read them on the pre-recorded show next week. I don't know when we're going to be recording it, but if you hurry up and do it, it'll be there, and then we can make fun of your taste. But if you're listening on a delayed basis and you are not here with us every Friday live, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, on the WADcast Facebook page or the Semicore Studios Facebook page, if you are a podcast listener, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. Oh, did you know that this show's on YouTube too and people watch it? Even though
I know that.
It's just the banner, people watch it.
Do they ever comment?
Leave comments. That'd be cool. Leave comments. I feel like saying, don't forget to smash that like button and hit the notification so you know every time that we post material. I don't know how they do it. I honestly don't.
Hell if I know.
That's what you get when you cross elephant or rhino.
Oh my god.
Elefino.
No, I'm not getting into that. That's bad joke. Take two.
Okay. Any final goodbyes you want to send out to the people?
No, just everyone. Since we will not be on here next week, I hope everyone has an amazing Christmas. That you spend a lot of time with your loved ones if you are able to in the same household. I'm not going to preach to you about social distancing, yada, 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 because chances are some of you that listen to the show don't give a shit, won't listen anyway. But still, I hope that you guys have the safest and happiest Christmas possible, and that's my wish for you. But I'm excited to be back with you guys after New Year's for you to hear our sultry voices again. I will probably in the very least, be posting some videos between now and Christmas. And that's really it.
All right, before I get into the final message of the year, I'm going to let you know that this Thursday night, Christmas Eve, Semicore Studios will be going live on Facebook with the 6th annual Semicore Holiday Spectacular Christmas Music. I will do a live reading of The Night Before Christmas. There will be tracking of Santa Claus. And we will have music. That's right. It's a Christmas party for everybody to join. Go to the Semicore Studios Facebook page. I made a little old event for it. Say you're going to go. That way you can be reminded when it goes live. And it will be a 3-hour... Well, I guess it can go longer, actually, since I'm not actually making a podcast of it. I'm just going to do a Facebook Live thing. But it's going to be family friendly. That's right. No swears. So get ready to tune in and listen with the whole family. I know it's not something you're used to hearing around here. Bring the kids. But by all means, I'm going to try and make it a nice night for everybody.
Oh, that's sweet.
With all that being said, time to cue the music. And it's time for me to remind you, for the last time in 2020, that the only thing standing between you and your dreams is you. You need to be your biggest cheerleader. And you also need to be your biggest critic. Because you are the one that has to live with you. And if you can find a way to live with yourself and be honest with yourself, you'll be able to be honest with pretty much anybody and everybody. Make your dreams happen in 2021, people. Nobody's going to do it for you. So, with that being said, good night.